Okay, so this is the 5-paragraph essay lecture. This should be familiar to you. You should have a basic background in the 5-paragraph essay beforehand, so this should be a pretty good review. Basic outline of a 5-paragraph essay. So I have that on the left. All right, so here's our essay outline. You got your introduction, you got your 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. You should be pretty familiar with that. All right, and you should already be pretty familiar about what goes into the body paragraph outline. It has a topic sentence. For each topic sentence, there's at least 3 supporting details, and then there's a conclusion and transition sentence. All right, so this is like a mini version of this. All right, this is a bigger version of this, but basically it's the same thing, just more specific detail here. So let's talk about the introduction. Your introduction is the way you want to get your reader to want to keep reading, right? It should be interesting. It should start with something that brings the reader in. An anecdote or a quote is a really good thing to start with because people are nosy. And if you start with a story or if you start with an interesting quote, people were like, well, wait, now I want to know more. All right, you can also do the same thing with a startling statistic, like 85% of all statistics are made up, and then go from there. You could do that, but it depends on what happens after the ingoing there. Your introduction's job is to give the reader some background information to whatever the topic is, and then at the end of your introduction, you want to have a thesis statement. All right, now a thesis statement seems to be the thing that most students have trouble with. They know that they're supposed to have some sort of sentence that tells us as readers what the rest of the essay is about, but they aren't always sure exactly what makes up a thesis statement. So in the most traditional format, a thesis statement has 2 parts. It has the topic and then about how you're going to talk about the topic. All right, and it's traditionally a super long sentence, and semicolons are often used, and that's not a bad thing. All right, but it does give the outline to the rest of your paper with your thesis statement. All right, so let's talk about that a little bit more in depth. All right, so for an informative paper, which is traditionally what you're going to use a 5-paragraph essay for, your thesis statement is going to reflect the different kinds of form. There's different kinds of informative essays. There's a process analysis, an essentials essay, a cause and effect essay, a comparison contrast essay, a classification essay. All these are forms of informative papers. All right, and again, so if your thesis statement is this is the topic and here's how I'm going to talk about the topic, in a process analysis, then your thesis says this is the topic and these are the broad steps needed to complete that process. An essentials thesis statement is going to say this is the topic and this is what it's made of, because an essentials essay is about the what is. So what is patriotism? What is love? All right, cause and effect. Your thesis statement either takes one of these 2 effects. It says either this is the cause and these are the effects from that cause, or you can write a thesis statement that says these are the causes that lead to this effect. Do not, I repeat, do not try to have a thesis statement that has many causes leading to many effects. That is far too confusing. You will make yourself absolutely crazy, and more importantly, the essay will way not be only 5 paragraphs. Okay? Just as a heads up, you want to choose one cause leading to many effects or many causes leading to one effect. Comparison contrast, these are the 2 things that are being compared, and this is how they're both being compared. All right, and with comparison contrast, the biggest trick is you got to make sure that the criteria that you choose to compare both things, you're using the same criteria to compare both things. It's just like with Miss America. And it's not like Miss California only gets to do the swimsuit competition, but she gets to skip out on the talent competition. All right, everybody who competes has to compete in the swimsuit and the talent and the evening gown and the talking section of the competition, so that way it's fair. All right, and lastly, classification. A classification essay is showing how one thing breaks down into a variety of classifications. All right, so this is the topic and it breaks down into these different types, and that's what your thesis statement would look like. So here's sort of an example of that. here's your body paragraph outline. So here's your topic sentence. All right. Here's your supporting detail. All right. You want to have, for each supporting detail, you want to have some examples to illustrate that supporting detail or some research that support that supporting detail. All right, so a body paragraph in high school and before high school is 5 sentences, and a topic sentence, 3 body sentences, and a conclusion. And one of the first things I have to do is break students of believing that a paragraph can only be 5 sentences. Like if it's 4 or 6, they're going to go to hell. And I have to break you immediately of that because paragraphs can be lots of different lengths. All right, and in college, we're really looking for that third level of detail, this purple level of detail here. Because we want to know where the rubber meets the road. Otherwise, students tend to write really vaguely. All right, so you have your topic sentence, you have your supporting detail supports that, and then so what? For example, what does that mean? Who supports that already? All right, so you're looking at a 7 to 12 sentence paragraph generally. So here's an example body paragraph, all right, for my essentials essay. So this was the original thesis statement. You notice how I'm color coding these things. So my thesis statement for my essentials essay is, I would know someone really loved me if he helped me feel safe and unalone in the world, if he showed his affection in words, times, and deeds, and I'd know he loves me if I trusted him to take over when I'm weak. All right, so here is how I would know someone really loved me. All right, so that's the topic. All right, and I would know that if he helped me feel safe and unalone, so that's one way. If he showed his affection in words, time, and deeds, so that's another way. And I'd know he loves me if if I trusted him to take over when I'm weak. So that's a third supporting way of knowing what love is. All right, so my body paragraph is the third body paragraph. It's reflecting back to this one here. I'd know he loves me if I trusted him to take over when I'm weak. Now, I don't want to restate that in my body paragraph because then that's just repetitive. But I want to sort of bring that same idea in. So my topic sentence is, what I really want more than in all of this is someone I can trust to take over for me when I just can't handle my life anymore. All right, so there's some words that sort of are similar, but it's not exactly the same. All right, that trusted here, I can trust here, and that way as a reader, you will know that I'm reflecting back to that thesis statement, but I'm not using exactly the same words to get there. All right, now to support this topic sentence, I have, when I'm just toast or strudel, I want someone to hand the reins to and not worry that when I wake up, everything will be messed up. All right, now I need an example because as a reader, you might not know what that means. All right, and so my example is, I want to trust my partner to have my best interests in my heart, to not have to be responsible all the time because I know he's got my back. All right, so that gives an example to being able to handle the reins and not worry when I wake up, everything's gonna messed up. I know that it won't be messed up because he's got my back. All right, and here's another supporting detail to support this body paragraph topic sentence. It seems to me the idea of a marriage or of a partnership is the two people pick up the slack for one another. Ideally, it's a balance where both pitch in when necessary. All right, and then to illustrate that, I know a few couples who seem to do this well, but most of the time I think accomplishing this is nearly impossible because we engage in power struggles and then get stuck in trying to be right. All right, so that's illustrating this idea of a partnership, and sort of the illustration is the anti-illustration, what people don't do. All right, and then concluding, in truth, this is why I'm not married and I've never trusted anyone to really have my back if I needed it. All right, so that should show you how the thesis statement is reflected in the body paragraphs and how the body paragraphs are set up to support the thesis statement. So once you've done that a bunch of times, then you have your conclusion. And your conclusion should answer the so what of the essay. All right, it's not just a restatement of what you said. You do not want to just restate your thesis statement because you've already said that. Just like we did with the topic sentences, you don't want the topic sentence to be exactly the same as what was in your thesis statement. Your conclusion should not just have, first I talked about this, and then I talked about this, and then I talked about this. You want your conclusion to be a little more sophisticated. So what? Why is this important? All right, you might encourage your reader to do something. Go out and find love. Go out and make a hobby horse. All right, you might explain the larger significance of the topic to the world. Why is this important? Where does this affect other people besides in the realm that you just talked about? All right, you might bring your essay back around to your anecdote or your startling statistic. So if 85% of all statistics are made up is your hook, then you might use your conclusion to say that though it's true that 85% of statistics are made up, the 73% of statistics that I used here were actually cited and sourced. I don't know if that's true, but I made that up. All right, so you can use your conclusion to sort of bring your essay full circle. And frankly, that's what it's supposed to do.